You are burning your net worth to project an image of wealth you do not actually possess. While high earners burn through six-figure salaries on lease payments and luxury watches, genuine millionaires follow a three-step blueprint to build lasting capital. It is not about how much you make, but the specific, quiet habits that separate the truly rich from those drowning in consumer debt. Stop mimicking the middle class and start tracking the data that actually creates generational security. Let's get into it. Ever wonder why someone driving a luxury vehicle might have a lower net worth than their neighbor who drives a 10-year-old sedan? It's a question that stumped researchers Thomas Stanley and William Danko back in the 90s. They spent years interviewing hundreds of people with net worths over $1 million, and what they found completely shattered the common perception of what wealth actually looks like. Most people assume wealth is about high salaries, expensive watches, and flashy real estate. But the data tells a different story. The actual millionaires they studied, the ones who achieved it on their own, didn't look like the people you see on social media. Let's start with the first, and perhaps most surprising discovery, the concept of the F.I.G.G.S. This isn't a stock market index, it's a way of living. The study found that most self-made millionaires are incredibly frugal. They spend significantly less on consumer goods than their income might allow. Imagine a person making $300,000 a year. You might think they should live in a $3 million home, but the research shows the opposite. The most successful wealth builders deliberately live in homes below their means, drive cars that aren't the newest models, and, critically, they budget with an intensity that most people find exhausting. Think about your own circle. How many people do you know who buy a new phone every year or upgrade their car the second their lease is up? That is what Stanley calls income statement affluence. It's money coming in, sure, but it's money going out just as fast. True wealth is found on the balance sheet. It is the net total of what you own minus what you owe. If you stop working tomorrow, your income stops. Your net worth, however, is what keeps you alive. The first step to building that net worth is simply stopping the consumption cycle. It's an easy win because it doesn't require you to earn more money. It just requires you to stop wasting what you already have. You don't need a promotion to start building wealth today. You just need to say no to the lifestyle inflation that is currently trapping the middle class. Now, here is where things get interesting. Once you stop the bleeding, you need a system to manage the flow. This brings us to the second principle, which is the concept of being defense-oriented with your financial planning. Most people approach their finances like a high-stakes offense. They look for the next big investment, the next crypto coin, or the next hot tech stock. They think wealth is about hitting a home run. But the millionaires in the Stanley study, they play defense. They focus on tax minimization, long-term asset allocation, and avoiding debt that carries high interest. There was a specific case in the research involving a couple named Sarah and Mark. They weren't high-profile executives. They were modest business owners. But over 20 years, they systematically moved their money into tax-advantaged accounts and index funds while keeping their household expenses incredibly low. By the time they hit their 50s, they had accumulated over $4 million. The key wasn't a secret investment strategy. It was consistency and a total refusal to over-leverage. They understood that the biggest threat to their wealth wasn't a market crash. It was their own desire to look wealthy. If you're finding this helpful, hit subscribe. I drop videos like this every week to help you manage your money with more clarity. If you're enjoying this so far, stick around because the last method I have for you is the one that separates the dreamers from the millionaires. All right, we've talked about frugality and we've talked about playing defense. But what if I told you there is one final critical differentiator that nobody talks about? It's the concept of financial independence productivity. Most people work to pay for the lifestyle they already have. They are in a trap of their own making. They buy the house, then the mortgage demands a high-paying, high-stress job. Then the job causes burnout, so they buy things to make themselves feel better. The truly wealthy, however, decouple their self-worth from their consumption. They don't just save money. They invest their time into things that generate passive income. They create businesses, buy real estate, or build systems that work even when they are sleeping. There was a fascinating statistic buried in the data. The average self-made millionaire spends nearly 20 hours a month planning and studying their investments. That is nearly 5 hours every single week dedicated to their financial future. Compare that to the average person who spends more time choosing what show to watch on Netflix than they do managing their retirement accounts. That 20 hours is the difference. It is the millionaire's edge. They treat their finances like a professional pursuit, not a chore they handle once a year during tax season. This isn't about being a stock market genius. It's about being an educated owner of your own life. When you stop looking at money as something you spend and start looking at it as a tool you manage, your entire world changes. Think about the compound interest of that decision. If you put 5 hours a week into learning, planning, and optimizing, you're going to be leagues ahead of anyone who ignores their balance sheet. That one shift alone could result in hundreds of thousands of dollars in extra net worth over the next 20 years. Once you see it this way, you can't unsee it. You realize that the guy driving the flashy car might actually be a slave to his monthly payments, while the person in the older model is the one who is truly free. So there you go. Three real ways to build wealth, and the last one alone changes the entire game. It's not about how much you make, it's about how much you keep and how wisely you manage it. If you got value from this, share it with someone who needs to hear it and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. I've got something coming next week about the psychology of spending that I think you're going to find incredibly eye opening. See you in the next one. And remember, you don't need $1 million to start building your future. You just need to start managing your $5 the right way. The rest will follow. Honestly, it's simpler than you've been led to believe. Just keep your head down and stay focused on your own path. That is the secret to everything.